Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Elevenses with the Reps at Diesel Bookstore. We are so happy to see you this morning. Every Wednesday, we get together here with our fabulous publishers representatives and our booksellers and sometimes authors and anyone else who wants to talk about books. And we discuss all of the new, upcoming, and recently released titles that our wonderful publishers reps, our wonderful, knowledgeable publishers reps want you to know about and add to your to be read pile. And to that end, we post the links to every book that we talk about today in the little chat area over there so that you can go ahead and look at them at your leisure and order them from Diesel when you are ready. And we have three of our favorite, most wonderful reps here today to talk about some really outstanding books, like really super outstanding. And I want to get right to it and have them talk about it. But first, I want to tell you about a couple of really fabulous events that are coming up in the store at Diesel in the next week, because I think you definitely want to know about that. First, on Sunday, and that's March 22nd, we have Rebecca Serle, and she is going to be with Gabrielle Zevin. What a great combo over there. And the two of them are going to be discussing Rebecca Serle's new book, Once and Again. So that's going to be Sunday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. That's Rebecca Serle and Gabrielle Zevin. That's going to be a really fabulous event. And then another event we're super, super excited about on Tuesday, which is March 24th, we have Felicia Day is going to be in the store, and she is going to be talking about the Lost Daughter of Sparta. And with her is going to be Leigh Bardugo, another of our favorite authors. So the two of them, Felicia Day and Leigh Bardugo, are going to be discussing and signing The Lost Daughter of Sparta, which is Felicia Day's new novel. And that is going to be Tuesday, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. at Diesel. So those are two really fabulous events coming up in the next week. We have more, lots of great things happening, and you can check those out at dieselbookstore.com, and they're all listed over there. All right. I'm very excited about the books we're going to talk about today. Look at us all so studious in our matching glasses. We're going to talk about books. Very exciting. All right. So today we have with us Julia Callahan from Hachette. We have Suzi Hough joining us from HarperCollins. We don't get to see Suzi often, so hi, Suzi. And we have Liz Camfiord from Random House. So good to see you, Liz, as
Hi.
always. All right. Julia, why don't you lead us off?
Okay. Well, my first one is a big one. It comes out next week on Tuesday, but I won't be here next week. So I figured I would talk about it this week. And it is Abby Jimenez's next novel, The Night We Met. So if you don't know Abby, she is a beloved romance author. And like beloved romance author. And what's really cool about this, The Night We Met, is that we have an indie exclusive edition of this book. So the indie bookstores get a special exclusive edition. The first 10,000 copies of that edition for the indies are signed by Abby. And it's the only channel. So, Barnes and Noble doesn't have signed copies, things like that. So it's the only channel that has signed copies. It's got an exclusive art print of the main characters that's exclusive to only the indie edition. So you should definitely get it at Diesel, and Diesel will have signed copies. But this is like, Abby is sort of known as, a beloved romance writer, but one that sort of really sticks in the reality camp of romance writing. And so far as that, she talks about things that are hard, and talks about like life events that are hard while, two people are sort of growing together and moving towards each other. And this book is, I think, even a departure from some of her previous books in that, like, it really is about these characters going through a particularly hard time, and meeting each other and being there for each other and sort of showing up in ways. And so it's a really lovely book. I think fans of Abby Jimenez are going to love it, but I also think that if you haven't tried her, this might be one to start with, because it is it's sort of deeply felt, emotional, and a really like lovely story between these two characters. And sure, it's a romance, so you may know how it will end, but the journey to get there is pretty phenomenal. So this is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. It's out next Tuesday, and like I said, there's an indie exclusive edition, so you definitely want to get it at Diesel.
Look at those great sprayed edges. I love that.
Yeah.
That is such a festive looking package on that book. That's a great way to put it, that she talks about hard things, Julia. I do think that differentiates her a little bit, and part of the reason why she's so incredibly popular. And I remember when she was I remember her first book and how it just sort of was like a word of mouth thing, and people just were really excited about it, and it just kept building with her.
Yeah,
And I think that's
she
to her ability.
Yeah, she's said like that the indie bookstores really sort of made her into a popular author because indie
Yeah.
booksellers sort of handed that book to people and all of her previous books to people. And so that's part of why she wanted to do that indie exclusive, is
Yeah.
because she wanted to sort of express her thanks to the indie bookstores who made her, brought her to where she is in her career. So, yeah.
And we will love it. So, signed copies available. Thank you, Julia. Susie, what is your first book?
All right, the first book I'm talking about just published yesterday, and it's Hooked by Asako Yuzuki. This is following her acclaimed debut, Butter, which was an indie darling, and I think a lot of you folks at Diesel have picked up a copy. Oh, look at that cover. It's so good. Hooked is another smart, provocative, oddball book about the complexities of female friendship and the struggles of being a woman in a society that is often repressive and misogynistic. It traces two women, a successful, lonely executive named Eriko, who is trying to introduce the Nile perch to the Japanese market. And this fish, it's a very controversial topic over there. And she is obsessed with a lifestyle blogger named Shoko. She orchestrates a meeting with Shoko and they become friends, but this is a tale of obsession and it quickly spirals. This is part of a really exciting wave of female writers coming out of Japan, like Mieko Kawakami and Sayaka Murata. But Yuzuki she writes really compelling characters, and her books are just very twisty and edgy and unexpected.
I remember Butter, how that was so exciting, that book. It was so different and had such a different kind of slant to it. And we did it for our book club, and it just kept going and going. It really had legs, Butter. And it was just different, different. It just had a different slant on it. And this one sounds just as good. I haven't read it yet, but I am like obsessed with that cover. I love that cover. And it's such a nice compliment to Butter, actually. Also did a great job of that, making it recognizable. So it's I think that'll be another big book.
I sure hope so, because it's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Susie. All right, Liz. Liz got some great books today. I was so excited when I saw Liz's list.
Oh, I'm so excited. You're excited. So yes, the first book I'm going to talk about just went on sale last week. It is In the Days of My Youth, I Was Told What It Means to Be a Man, a memoir by Tom Junod. No, it is not a memoir about Led Zeppelin, though I love that Led Zeppelin title. This is Tom's memoir. It's stylized. It's so fantastic about his charismatic, philandering father and how his father tried to mold him in his image and their complicated relationship. So I'll read you some of the editorial notes because this is what really drew me into this book. So Big Lou Juno dominated every room he entered. He worshiped the sun and the sea, his own bronzed body, Frank Sinatra, and beautiful women. He was a successful traveling handbag salesman who carried himself like a celebrity. He'd returned from the road with stories of going to nightclubs where the stars, Ava Gardner, maybe Liz Taylor, couldn't keep their eyes off your father, according to him. He had countless affairs and really didn't do much to hide them. So, this is a portrait of obviously this relationship, but also the family. So Lou could be very cruel to his wife of 59 years. And yet he loved Tom, his youngest son. And Tom was a skinny, nervous boy, totally devoted to his mother. Anyway, he was devoted to his mother. And Lou sought to turn him into a version of himself. He showered him with advice about how to dress. Things like a turtleneck is the most flattering thing a man can wear, and just how to be an alpha male, and especially how to attract and bed women. So the writing, and I know Deborah can attest to this, the writing of this is like, even if you don't think the memoir is compelling, I mean, this is stop in your tracks, amazing writing. You want to read the whole thing out loud, underline passages. He is just such an incredibly clear, insightful, beautiful, beautiful writer. It made me laugh out loud, pause in admiration. It's about the true meaning of manhood. And it speaks very strongly, if you haven't gathered by now, to the alpha male psyche and the women and children who live with them. The genesis of this was an article that Tom wrote for GQ magazine, where he's a regular journalist, a regular columnist. It was called My Father's Fashion Tips. And this is when he first tried to wrestle with Big Lou's larger-than-life presence. And it took Big Lou's funeral for Tom to really begin investigating his father's life in earnest, and also years to unearth all of the incredible and wrenching secrets in this book. So it is full of secrets of women, of trying to piece together his memories. And Tom has a wonderful background. He's on tour now for the book too. There are a couple of events in LA, and you can look up his tour. He had a viral article that many may remember called Falling Man about 9/11. And he also wrote the article, Can You Say Hero, about Fred Rogers, who he very much admired, so much that became a film. It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which starred Tom Hanks as Tom Junod. He's just, you will not be sorry to pick up this book and start reading it. And there's even a little film with family pictures that you can find, which there are photographs in the book, which really just enhance the book and help with the mystery and all of that. So that is my top recommendation for March.
And it's a really good one, Liz. Ditto to everything you just said. I was completely drawn in, obviously, by the title. I was like, oh, that's clever, because, you just hear the song immediately and you're like, oh, no, what's this about? And then the writing just takes you, even if you're not in the mood for a memoir, or you don't think that, you want to hear about being manly or what a man is or whatever. It just, there's this, I'm not spoiling anything by giving away or upfront in the book. He talks about attending his father's funeral, and this beautiful woman shows up who, like, he barely knows, and she comes up like, where did she come from? And the first thing she says is, can we just all agree that this was a man? And he's like, okay, what? And that's just everything just unspooling from there. It's great. It's really great. The writing is just fabulous. It's compelling. And even if you don't think you're interested in any of the, talking points of the novel, you are. The memoir. You definitely are. It's really great.
And about his marriage. It's definitely...
but all of exactly. And then there's a lot of family stuff, about how stuff comes down, and depending on your parents, you don't know when you're younger, and it's just really a process when you find out, who your parents actually were.
I think everybody can relate to, like, those opening pages where he's a kid in this adult world, and what is this adult world? And,
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Liz.
Sure.
Great book. All right, Julia.
All right. And I will read anything Tom Junod writes. He's awesome. So
he's such a good writer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my next book is a debut novel. This is called Golden Boy by Patricia Finn. And the editor of this is Reagan Arthur, who's a beloved and well-known editor, who's back at Hachette after being elsewhere for a bit. And she said to me, I had sort of expressed that I really, really loved this novel. And she said to me, it's not often I get to, put out a debut novel from a woman over 60. And I thought that, like, I think that first of all, when an editor is excited about things like that, I think that just like is such a tell on how much they love to put out great work, you know, no matter who the author is, they just want the work to be good. And this work is so good. And what I think is interesting about sort of this being Patricia Finn's debut novel and her being over 60 is like, you feel the wisdom of like a life lived in this novel. And so this book, it's about this man. He's, for all intents and purposes, like extremely successful. He's got multiple houses. They sort of flit from Aspen to Hawaii to, all their different locations, he and his wife. Um, and so, he's made something of himself financially, at least. And he has kids, and he's hit all the benchmarks that one is supposed to hit, according to certain segments of society. And then he gets a call that a dear childhood friend of his has died, and he's asked to raise this friend's grandchildren, and sort of takes on these kids, and and it's like such a beautiful musing about, you know, in life you have to choose paths. At some points you have to make choices and choose what path you're going to go down. And there's like a mourning of the paths you didn't take while also being okay with the paths you did. There's like this deep sort of connection to, um, you know, realizing that human connection is sort of, that's what we get. And you can make this sort of, on paper, extremely successful life for yourself, but without the human connection part, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. And this book is just, it's beautiful. There's nostalgia to it. There's a sort of such an emotional heart to it. And I'm like hesitant to like sort of, I feel like this is a book about, like, if I talk to you about the plot, it's like not really what this book is about. This book is about the emotion of it, and how it's going to make you feel as you're reading it. It will definitely make you cry. It will also make you laugh. It will make you sort of ache in that way that is so satisfying. It's a beautiful book. It got starred review in Kirkus, and it's just been this sort of word of mouth, when we start reading for a season. So when we started all reading for summer, people sort of pick out their little books that they love. And this one is the one that sort of got passed through all the reps, whether it's the indie reps like me or some of the other reps that cover, other channels. People started just being like, God, this is just such a special book. And it really is. It's a special, special novel. Hilarious, heartbreaking, as it says, the Richard Russo says on the quote or on the cover, but it's just like such a deeply felt novel. And I think, like I said, you feel sort of the wisdom of a life lived, from this author, throughout the book. And it's just gorgeous. So this is The Golden Boy, like I said, debut fiction, from Patricia Finn, an absolutely stunning novel.
I am really partial to first novels by debut novels by older writers. Older. I mean, older is a better word. Not mature. I don't know.
People who've lived a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt the same way about Lessons in Chemistry when I read it, because she also brought, things. The
Yeah.
older you get, things. You have the and you know how people are, and then you write characters that are imbued with that kind of life knowledge. So I'm already predisposed to, and I love that a publisher will give a shot to
Mhm.
it, to it. author who's older and hasn't published before and that kind of thing. So, and they often turn into really very popular and widely loved books as well. So, and this one seems like it's poised for that kind of reception.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where you can't wait to see what this author might do next.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's clear that there's so much sort of depth there that I can't wait to see, where she goes next.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia.
Mm.
Back to you, Suzi.
Okay, my next book is also from a debut author. It's The Fountain by Scieszka. Casey, this is her first novel, but she's not new to the literary world. She runs a bed and breakfast in the Catskill Mountains called the Spruceton Inn, and it has an artist residency, and she's had several novelists come through. Her father is also John Scieszka, the beloved children's author, so that's kind of cool. In her first book, the main character is forever 26 and able to heal from any wound, living forever. But to Vera, this has become unbearable. While she, her brother, and mother have all stumbled into immortality sometime in the early 1800s, she now longs for death and release from the heartache of watching people she loves die. After nearly 2 centuries, she returns to the Catskills, hoping to discover the source of her long life. But she's not the only one searching for this mystical fountain of youth. There's a mysterious company buying up local property, no matter the cost, so she's now in a race against time to find what caused her condition before someone else does. If you read Tuck Everlasting when you were a kid, this tackles a lot of the same themes and story beats, but on a much more mature level. It is just an incredible book. It's blending a deep appreciation for the pleasures and small things of everyday life with this spectacular premise and just a richly imagined world. It's a smart and clever book, and it's ultimately deeply moving. It's just one of my favorite debuts on our list this season.
So many great debuts just today coming up. So I, having grown up partially in the Catskill Mountains, just find the idea of immortality in the Catskills hilarious. That's just like not anything that would have occurred to me when I was in high school in the Catskills, and I just think it's a clever idea that she has here, and I've been waiting for this book to go on sale so I can talk about it more. It's really a fun and unusual and inventive kind of book. It's a great debut, I think. So
yeah, I'm so happy it's finally out so that there can be conversations about it. I feel like I've been sitting on it for months just waiting.
Yes, same, which is often the case because we read so far ahead. But this is one that I feel like, is this not out yet? When is this coming out? So now it's finally here. Excellent.
And the cover is a knockout.
Yeah, the cover is great. I love the cover. So many great covers too. Really not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we do. So, it's great when they're great. Thank you, Suzi. All right, Liz.
And it's great when they're green. That's my segue. My next book is from one of our client publishers, Chelsea Green. Love them. They publish a lot of books on sustainability. They're located in Vermont. Their books are just so beautiful about nature, about, saving our planet and all of that. This book I'm going to talk to you about it's so rich. It's called 32 Words for Field, Lost Words of the Irish Landscape by Manchán Magan, and also with an introduction or foreword by Wade Davis, who many of you know his writing. So this is a new paperback edition. It's the first time I've sold it. I've seen some imports in stores of the hardcover, but this is an updated edition of what has been an international bestseller. And it's, of course, this being Irish Heritage Month and St. Patrick's Day yesterday, it's selling so well. Been hard to keep it in stock. I did look it up, and Diesel has a couple of copies. So if you don't want to wait a long time to read this, you should go grab one of those copies. This explores the richness of the Irish language, so it would be great for people who are interested in linguistics, but it's also poetic. It's full of folklore and just all of those enticing Irish. It's like going to Ireland. that the language is so connected to the natural landscape. Case in point, the Irish language has 32 words for a field. Among them are, I will botch the Gaelic. Excuse me, but I have to tell you these anyway. Gimhar, a field of corn grass. Tuar, a field for cattle at night. Reidhelen, a field for games or dancing. Catharan, a field with a fairy dwelling in it. So our Irish author, Manchán Magan, explores how Gaelic, a 3,000-year-old lexicon, has imbued the natural world with meaning and magic, evoking this time-honored way of life lived in close connection to the land. There are stories here that he's collected from his own life and his travels, and he really is urging readers to consider the sublime beauty and profound oddness of this ancient tongue. And again, a deep study of something like this just has tendrils into so many different worlds, and it's just an inspiring book. For writers, it would be like a great book if you're a writer, a poet, to read. I know those of my booksellers who have read it just come back to me and just say how much they love it. Sadly, the author who was supposed to be on tour for this book, it was released a couple months ago, he passed away due to metastasized prostate cancer last year. And of course, he was scheduled for a tour, so we did not think it was going to go that way. And his obituary, and all of the writers and all of his friends and family, people who loved him, reading their expressions of grief has been just so touching. So in honor of the author, in honor of this gorgeous book about the Irish language and nature and Ireland, please pick it up. Please read it. You won't be sorry.
This is another book I was super excited that you were going to talk about, because this has been another one of my just love. It's on my love list. And I just am, when you start thinking about language and breaking it down and examining all of these different words the way it's done here, it's just an open door into so many different types of, imagination. I read, there was an article recently in The Guardian about Welsh, about a woman, I think it was called Where Duolingo Falls Down or something, learning Welsh from her mother, and there's not very many Welsh speakers left, but it's one of the most ancient languages. And the description of meaning in words that are so specific, like all of the words for field that you just read. I love a field with a fairy ring in it. It's just so,
Or a
it
cow
just
at
says,
night, just at
yeah,
night.
yeah. It says so much about culture and language and the sort of human ability to express indefinable emotions, or to attempt to put definitions on these kinds of emotions. I love this kind of thing so much. There's so many rabbit holes that you can actually take while you're looking on the surface of it. Here's just a bunch of different words, but then it just is so much more than that. There's so many layers to it.
Yes. And it's not academic. Let me just stress it.
No, not at all.
It would appeal to academics, of course, but it's not. And Robert McFarlane, who's done so well, what was his book, River, about the river? He's just done it. He gave it such a beautiful quote. And yes, you put it perfectly, Deborah. Leave it to a writer to say so eloquently about the open door of this book.
I love books like this, especially when they're so beautifully written. Welsh and Gaelic, Irish, they're just some of the most poetic. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Excellent. Thank you, Liz. All right, Julia's going to start us off on the last round of the day.
All right. Well, this one's for the 90s kids. And my last one, this is a memoir by Melissa Oftermar called Even the Good Girls Will Cry, a 90s rock memoir. And if you don't know her by name, you will definitely know her by bands. She was the bass player of both Hole and the Smashing Pumpkins. And this is her memoir of her time as a bass player in the 90s for two of the biggest bands that came out of the 90s. There's been some great interviews with her going around. If you maybe, I don't know, they keep showing up on my Instagram feed. But great interviews with her and Billy Corgan about Billy Corgan like told Courtney Love to call her because she's a great bass player. And Courtney Love basically just demanded she be in Hole and was like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. Like, then she ended up in Hole. So it's an awesome memoir of the time, of the place, sort of right at the center of culture. I mean, obviously, Hole, I mean, I guess they somewhat come out of Seattle. They're mostly out of LA. But like, you get that sort of Seattle vibe, 90s alternative rock. If this is a time you miss, which as a person who was a teenager at this time, I miss it dearly. This kind of music and this kind of like having this alternative rock scene and having these like awesome women who infiltrated what was for so long the boys club. I think this memoir is going to be for you, but also just like if you like music and if you think, listening to stories about female musicians who like had to infiltrate this boys club and like what that was like, this is also for you. So Melissa Offermar is, I feel like maybe I'm not sure that I knew her by name, but as soon as I saw this picture, I was like, yes, I know exactly who this is. I'm so excited to read this. So, and it was everything that I wanted it to be and more. So this is just an awesome memoir, an awesome sort of look at the time. It's a little bit, it's like there's different pieces to it. There's like, it's not like sort of straightforward memoir. She sort of brings a whole bunch of different things into this memoir, and has like I don't know, just has like this sort of psychedelic scrapbook diary component to it. And there's photos in it. It is just an awesome book. And whether or not you lived through the time, I think it will appeal. So this is Even the Good Girls Will Cry by Alyssa Offermar.
So I feel like we had this wave, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years
10
ago,
years ago.
of...
It was 10 years ago.
Okay, of all of the memoirs from, all of the rockers from the 70s, maybe in 80s, right? Every single one of them, I was like, where is this? I mean, is it going to end? Like, is there a stopping point? And yes, there was. And now we're seeing a lot of memoirs from the 90s, the bands and the people in the bands from the 90s. And it's super interesting for me. You mentioned about, what it was like being, in this boys club. It's always been a boys club, right? But the that first wave of memoirs, it was just accepted. I mean, there were groupies, and that's where the women were kind of, you had your odd.
Yeah, you got hard.
Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bangles.
exactly.
Yeah.
They were sort of sanctioned, allowed and vaguely just. And so this is really where it starts to turn, I think. And you had another book, Julia, about how it turned again, right? In the early 2000s.
Post 9/11. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Where there were like really great strides being made with women in rock bands and having this really heightened profile, and then it like flipped again. What was the name of that book? Why not? Let's plug that one.
I'm so blanking. I'm gonna just absolutely blank on the name of that book, but yes,
that's a great book too. But anyway, but I think with a lot of these new memoirs about the women in these 90s, in these big 90s bands, actually, and very formative for a whole generation, actually, like you. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting perspective, and I'm really enjoying getting into these, seeing this different dimension from, because I've read all of the rock bio. I was like, all of them. So
Yeah, well, and I think like obviously Kim Gordon and Liz Phair and Carrie Brownstein had memoirs maybe about 10 years ago that sort of, covered this same 90s era. And so like, but we've had a dearth of them for a long time that like a lot,
yes,
you know, that I haven't seen, particularly the women of this era talking about that as much. And then there was that great Lilith Fair documentary that came out like maybe last
that was
year.
great.
Yeah. And so I feel like we're primed to sort of continue this conversation about like
Yeah.
women in music and women in rock music particularly. So yeah.
Yeah. And I'll buy any music book that you recommend, Julia.
I know. And I do love a music book.
I know. Thanks, Julia. All
Yeah.
right, Suzi, your last book of the day.
Okay, the last book that I have today is Whidbey by T. Kira Madden. This is another debut novel. It follows the stories of three women who are connected to each other through one Calvin Boyer, who has just been murdered. Bertie Chang was abused by Calvin as a child. Lindsay is a reality TV star who wrote all about how Calvin harmed her in a best-selling memoir. And his mother, Mary Beth, is just desperate to find out what happened to her son. And so we've got these shifting perspectives throughout the book as each of these women are trying to figure out what happened, how they may or may not be involved, and just the sort of rich tension of all of this happening on this island, Whidbey, which is fairly isolated. It's a very skillfully constructed whodunit. It's full of suspense and tension and just exceptionally good writing. It's not T. Kira's first book, but her previous book was a nonfiction. This is just her first novel. She also tackles a lot of very difficult topics like the lack of recourse and justice for victims of abuse and the way that media will package trauma for consumer consumption. When our reps were reading this last year, several members of the team formed a book club because there was just so much to talk about, and we're just working off manuscripts at that point, so we can't talk with other readers yet. It's compulsively page turning, and it just lingers long after you've closed it and finished the last page. You're still thinking about the characters and everything that happened.
I love it's inside baseball, but the rep world, whenever there's that kind of excitement in house, long before you guys see things, way before even booksellers see them, you get to see stuff really first after the editor. And when there's that kind of excitement in house and you guys are talking about it, it's a really good sign, I know you want to be like that with every single book that you sell, I'm sure.
Booksellers too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I often am just despairing because I can't read everything. And I haven't read this one yet. But it's totally up my alley. I love this kind of, I love a mystery. I love a well-written mystery that focuses on the darkness in the human soul as well as just the mystery itself. So, but it's very exciting to know that you all liked it so much, and that will really help it, I think, propel it. But let's hope it's one of those word of mouth gets it out there.
Yes, I think so.
Thanks, Suzi. All right, Liz, you are the last book of the day.
And I love an island setting, so that totally appealed to me. And that's a named island. That Whidbey Island exists. And my next book, my final book, Eradication, is set on an island that is imaginative, I believe. It's never named. It's in the Pacific Ocean, but it's not distracting to try and figure out what it is, because this is a fable, and I think it's really going to appeal to. It's such a good novel. I'm like 20 pages from the end. I can't wait to finish it. It is Jonathan Miles's fourth book, but it's definitely his best work. It's a gem. And it's, set on a desert island. It's a meditation on love and grief and solitude, as island settings often are, but with a lot of dark humor. So our main character, Audie, is reeling from a tragedy, which I will not tell you what what that tragedy is, but he's a former jazz musician turned school teacher, and he answers a job listing advertising a chance to save the world. The assignment is to spend 5 weeks alone on this isolated Pacific island of Santa Flora, with the aim of preserving countless bird and plant species from certain extinction by eradicating an apparent out of control goat population. Adi's never shot a gun before, but he has some basic training before the job begins, and then he's left alone, armed on this island. However, the threats to the once lush island are, not quite what he was told. He soon learns that his employers have sort of, tricked him into getting there. He finds a heap of plastic waste. So there's been human life on the island. And complicating things further, he discovers he's not alone on the island. And there's a really harrowing scene where he encounters some I think they're called fin divers. They're collecting shark fins for sale for commerce, and it's a very disturbing scene. But anyway, he spends his days on the sun-drenched island, and he's trying to figure out the true threat to the island. And he's, of course, becoming enamored of the goat population, especially the nanny goats, who he begins to name. And shooting these goats is not something that he really is up for anymore. He befriends a rat. He saves a little bird. He's feeding them. He's drying. It's just it's something very maternal in it too. And I just love the book. I couldn't help but conjure Tom Hanks and Castaway while reading this, which, it's kind of a Robinson Crusoe, Island of the Blue Dolphins, just a beautiful book. And oh my gosh, the pages fly by. Like I said, 176 pages, but it's just such an easy yet deep read. So Ron Charles, his review is, I think, worth repeating. He calls this an instant classic. The moment I finished, I was reminded of Emily Dickinson's description of true poetry. I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off. Miles has an uncanny ability to create a terrifying kind of momentum. What a special book. And again, there are some copies at Diesel, but it is selling quite well, and has just been out a short time, a couple weeks. I'm trying to remember. And a little known fact that I love about this talented author, Johnny Miles, as he's known, also toured with John Batiste's band in 2024 as a jazz musician. He's a very cool guy. And pick it up. You'll love it.
Both of those last two books, Liz, I think this one and
32.
Yes, 32 Words Revealed are they're going to sell out. So there's going to have to wait for another printing. So you'll need to pick your copy up of both of them. And I love, me, I love a short book because I can read more of them.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Stack it up. And I've got this reminds me of other island and short island that Clear. It makes me think of Clear, even though it's a completely different kind of topic.
Claire Keegan?
No, Clear was, her name is escaping me at the moment. Claire. Okay, it's gone. But that sort of had that about in the Scottish Islands,
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, that was another great book, short book about isolation and what happens on islands in isolation. And there's really a lot to mine there in that whole concept. But this sounds, I love the goats and the
goats are just so great. And they start, he finds a way with a goat horn to turn it into an instrument. So he's playing songs and he notices the goats are kind of dancing along. It's just very dear. It's very dear.
Really great book. And a great way to finish, I would say, as well, since we are at that time now. What a great group of books. I was very excited about you really have brought it, as you always do, but these are some fantastic books, and they are going fast, I will say, as well. So You need to secure your copies now. Thank you so much to all of you for coming here today. Julia Callahan from Hachette, Suzi Hough from HarperCollins, and Liz Camfiord from Random House. Thank you, Joey, behind the scenes, our producer extraordinaire, for posting all of the beautiful covers that we saw today as well, and the links. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you over here at Diesel. And we will be back again next week. We will have more reps, we will have more books to talk about, and we will have more rabbit holes to go down. So I hope you will join us all. You will come back and join us again next week. And until then, everybody, happy reading, and thanks again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.